Can Florida State win a national championship this year? That is a big question for the Seminoles, and it's a popular question right now because of how they finished the year, the returning talent that they have back, and the schedule that they have the potential to win out. When you look at the schedule, we'll dive into that first. The first game really is going to tell us everything. I think that if they beat LSU, you're on the right track. If you lose to LSU, however, I think that you throw the national championship hopes to the side. Now, there is a chance that they could get back in, but given the perception of the ACC lately, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be enough. Now, the game after that, obviously, Southern Miss is not really going to be a problem. At Boston College could be tricky depending on what this Florida State team has in terms of leadership. And then the fourth game here is really going to be tough. At Clemson in the first month of the season, again, if you get past LSU, you still have to get past Clemson. That is always going to be something that Florida State has to do. And it feels like Mike Norvell has this team in a better place where they could potentially do that. Now, if they're able to be 4-0, that is huge. That is going to be a team to be reckoned with. They are going to be in the top four. They should be in the top four. And I don't really see many other games that they should lose. Now, obviously, the Miami game, the Florida game, there are games that could be losses, but this is a team with good potential. And the schedule they have leads to me to believe that they could and should be a national championship contender. Now, obviously, you're playing two potential other playoff teams in LSU and Clemson. So that's within the first month of the season, we're essentially going to know, is this team legit or do we just move on in terms of a national championship hopes? And when we look into the talent returning, that's where things really get interesting and really exciting if you're a Florida State fan. Now, one of the biggest returnees in all of college football was Jared Verse, a guy that could have gone in the first round of this year's NFL draft, decided to return to college and help the Seminoles potentially win a national championship. That is huge. Now, we'll talk about the defense a little bit more in just a little bit. It's the offense that is going to be the focal point. When you look at Jordan Travis and what he was able to do over the course of last year, Mike Norvell's effect on quarterbacks has been tremendous and well documented. This is a guy who knows how to get his quarterbacks to play at a high level. Jordan Travis is arguably his most talented quarterback that he's coached yet. And he's a dual threat guy who can make plays with his legs, but the last year he showed that he can make plays with his arm too. Throwing to a guy like Johnny Wilson, that helps a lot. When you're throwing to a guy who's 6'6" and above, that's going to make life pretty easy when you have to throw it to a certain area, and that guy gives you a little bit more room for error. And Johnny Wilson averaged 20.9 yards per catch. He is the definition of a deep threat, and he is someone that's going to be huge for Florida State again. Joining Travis in the backfield, Trey Benson was phenomenal. He was a phenomenal player for Florida State, and I think that he's going to have his best year yet. 990 yards rushing last year. I think that you're looking at a guy who is set to be even better. Now, Mike Norvell did really well to go into the transfer portal to add some talent. Jaheim Bell comes in from South Carolina. He is an explosive playmaker. Now, South Carolina used him at tight end and a little bit of wide receiver, so it'll be interesting to see how Norvell and this staff utilize him. Then you look at even the running back room is going to be deep. The offensive line is going to be solid as well. This offense has a ton of talent to be able to make a run. It's just a matter of putting it all together. Flipping back over to that defense, we talked about Jared Verse. We know what he can do. He is a playmaker, and he has been incredible and one of the best additions that Florida State made via the transfer portal or recruiting in the last couple of years. Jared Verse has been everything they wanted and more. They also added Bendel Cypress from Virginia. They had Gilbert Emmon, Jaheim Bell's teammate from South Carolina, to join that defensive group. Cypress will play a corner. Edmond could line up across opposite of Verse, and that could be a duo to keep an eye on. Greedy Vance returned that corner. The linebackers are super underrated. Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach, I think those two don't get enough credit for what they can do. They are athletic playmakers who are going to run around the field. And with the guys they have in front of them, they're going to have a pretty easy life, if you ask my opinion, because you look at the two ends we just talked about. They had a couple of defensive tackles in the transfer portal, and Fabian Lovett is back as well. They have plenty of talent in the front seven, and these linebackers will continue to make plays as long as those defensive ends and defensive tackles do their part as well. When you're looking at Florida State in terms of a national championship, I think that has to be the goal. Mike Norvell knows how to create explosive offenses. He's added a ton of talent in the transfer portal, and this is a Florida State team that has big aspirations in 2023, and they maybe have a lot of weight on their shoulders, and we're going to find out if they can handle that or if they're going to crumble under that pressure.